Everyone, welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the UFC 260 picks for tonight. Great main event: Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. A couple of other good fights in this one as well. Some great tournaments. So I wanted to go ahead and break it down in this video. So let's get started. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Got baseball coming up. It's about to get really fun here in DFS. Baseball, NBA going on at the same time with all these other sports. It's going to be a blast. So make sure you guys stay tuned and stick with this channel. Hopefully, I'll be able to make videos every day. Looking at this one, the most expensive fighter on the slate is Sean O'Malley. He suffered a foot injury or leg injury in his most recent fight. That was UFC 252 against Chito Vera. He's back. That was his first loss of his career. I just expect him to do really well here against Thomas Almeida. O'Malley just gives you a lot of upside in his strikes landed. He's very accurate with those strikes. He can get you takedowns. He has a big advantage in height, in reach. Reach is a little bit more important. So looking at like these stats here, if we want to look at how these fighters on O'Malley's fight here, just has some like big advantages. If you see, basically in all of the striking department, he has an advantage there. In grappling, he has an advantage. And 4-1 in his last 5 fights compared to 1-4. Expect O'Malley to kind of get the job done. He's 9,200. Wanted to pay up, especially after losing his, well, he lost the last fight, but we couldn't really do much about it with his injury. But I expect him to bounce back here with the win, so he looks like a great guy to spend up for. Next up is Vicente Luque. He's a minus 240 favorite against Tyrone Woodley. Woodley's kind of been a bit disappointing, most to say the least. He's not been very good recently, whereas Vicente Luque is on the upswing. He is at least a few years younger. I believe he's like 28, 29, whereas Woodley's in his mid-30s. Luque gives you a ton of upside. He gets you takedowns. He can get you some takedowns, mainly for his grappling. He's very good with the grappling. Very good on the ground. He can get you he can submit you. He can knock you out with his power. Just think he gives you a lot of upside compared to Woodley. Just kind of one-dimensional. He's just looking for that big power punch, and if he doesn't get it, then he's gonna be in for some trouble. Like he can drag some fights out, but he's not gonna be putting up the sort of output that Luque does. Like 5.72 strikes per minute compared to 2.33 is just a huge difference. More accurate. Can also get some submissions. That's a reach advantage as well. I think Luque, I like him a lot, especially if people are probably like not going to pay all the way up. Like if they do, I think they might go to O'Malley. Could leave Luque a little bit lower owned, but I do like Luque a lot tonight against Woodley. Then we're looking at like Miranda Maverick. I expect her to win against Robertson. She is also pretty entertaining. She's pretty expensive, I think. It's definitely not as locked for her to dominate as some of the other couple guys that are priced up. So I think she's probably not a person I'll have in my, if I was just making 1 or 2 lineups. But if you're making a bunch, I think she definitely should be out there, like almost 4 times, almost 5 times the output of Robertson. Gives you advantage in the reach, even though she's a couple inches shorter. Also doing really well right now. We can look at how both of these fighters have done recently. If we want to pull up Robertson versus Maverick, it's basically in her first fight she won, but Robertson is 3-2 in her most recent 5 fights. Also, it was only 1 fight for her, but finished in the first round. Expect Maverick to be a very good fighter tonight. Expect her to win. Then you have Morales versus Shane Young. Young is 13-5. He's a slight underdog against Omar Morales. If you wanted to go with like a punt play or a cheap play, you needed some savings. I don't mind going to Young, but I don't think you'll win. I would hope that he kind of at least gets you into like this 3rd round, so he kind of can accumulate some fantasy points. But I expect Omar Morales to win. He's just a bit more polished, stronger chin. Young doesn't go down as Young goes down pretty easily compared to Morales. If we want to look at how these fighters have done, it's been 4 fights for Shane Young. He's 2-2, and compared to 3-1 for Morales. Morales is like Young gives you more strikes landed per minute, but he also is absorbing a lot, has worse defense, and both fighters aren't guys that are going to knock you out very often. Both average fights are over 10 minutes. So I don't think either one is a must play, especially 87 for Morales is pretty expensive. I'd probably go up to Maverick if I had to pick between just these two specifically. And then you have Karma Worthy versus Jamie Malarkey. I think Malarkey is another guy that we could look to as a value play because you're probably going to want to go with some cheap plays here. Out of the guys that are in the 7K range, I think Malarkey does give you some sort of upside just because he's a guy that can get you takedowns. If we wanted to look at his stats here, he has the same reach, 1 inch taller, doesn't get you like Worthy is better with landing strikes, but 4 takedowns per minute, you get those solid points on DraftKings and FanDuel for those takedowns landed. Hopefully, he can continue to take Connor Worthy down, and his people are putting money on him. He was like way over. It's like plus 115, plus closer to 120 earlier yesterday. Now he's down to plus 105. I think he's a guy that you can look to as a cheap option here, so I'll plug him in at only $7,600. Uh, Next up, other fights that look somewhat interesting to target here is definitely the main event. Both fighters are cheap, so you probably want to get to at least one of these fighters. I don't see how you don't have either one of these in your lineup. When Ngannou is 84 and Stipe Miocic is 7,800, usually the main event guys are priced way up because you get those 5 rounds, get those extra rounds if it does go to that. Ngannou's fights usually don't because he's usually knocking people out in the first round. When he's winning and when he's losing, it's when the fight kind of drags on. Miocic is a fighter that can drag on those fights that happened in the first meeting between these two. He's only 7,800. So compared to like Francis Ngannou, if he doesn't win in the first round, then I would expect Miocic to kind of put up more fantasy points just because he puts up more output. He can just be a bit better on the ground. Not that he's probably going to take Miocic, not that he's going to take Ngannou on the ground, but he could at times. Miocic, it's $7,800. He is a slight underdog, I believe, but he still gives you a ton of upside. And this fight can go either way here. Both fighters are obviously super skilled. Ngannou's going for that one punch knockout. Miocic is looking at just kind of pound you. He can also get you takedowns. So I would say I like Miocic at only $7,800. He's definitely going to be in my lineup. And then at the top, like O'Malley at 9,200, definitely can pay up for him. Then you have Alonzo Menefield at only $8,100 facing off against Sharon. Sharon took this fight on short notice, so and he also missed weight by half a pound, so Menefield is getting some extra purse, in like 20% of his purse. Menefield coming off of 2 losses. This fight, I think it's gonna be some money to be made on Menefield. He's a minus 300 favorite. There is some money coming into Charant, but I just expect Menefield to kind of knock some of his frustrations on Charant, who's didn't think to be taking some big punches from Menefield, a few days ago before he got the call. Charant, if Menefield isn't able to put him away in the first round, he's a guy that could make things interesting. But I'm expecting a first round knockout for Menefield. 8,100 is also just really, really cheap. So these are the 4 fighters I like. It still leaves you with plenty to pay up if you wanted to go up with a couple. I love Luque, I love Miocic, I love Menefield, Malarkey. It's a bit of a value option, but I do think he has some upside. If you wanted to go with another cheap option here, if you needed to, I like Modestas Bukakis, 7,700. I think he could be interesting tonight. And I'm not really sure about this Jared Gooden Nurmagomedov fight. I haven't seen Nurmagomedov in quite some time. He got like he got some sort of suspension, but he's back and maybe he can do some good things. But that's it for the DraftKings side. Let's jump over to FanDuel. At the FanDuel price tags on these guys, starts with O'Malley is the most expensive fighter on both sites here, $23 on FanDuel. Then Alonzo Menefield is really more expensive on FanDuel. I still like him. Like on DraftKings, he looks even better at 8,100, but he's still in play on FanDuel at $22. And FanDuel priced up some of these main event fighters as they should. Ngannou is $20, Miocic is $19. I'm siding with Miocic. It could go either way, but I just think Miocic can get the job done. But at the top, it's Menefield, O'Malley, Luque as the guys I'm looking at. I'm not really looking at Nurmagomedov, $20. I just don't know much about him right now. Hasn't had many fights. And then I'm looking at Miocic. I think, and then if you wanted to save some money here, it's Marc-Andre Barrelot at $15. Maybe Jamie Malarkey, $14. Maybe you can go to Bukakis, $12. And then $10, Shane Young as a potential play. But I'm not touching any of these 9K guys or $9 and $8 guys. And then I'm gonna spend in this top end range for some of the same fighters I mentioned. So it's Menefield, $22. It's Vicente Luke, $21. Potentially looking at Malarkey, $14, and then possibly can go to Marc-Andre Barrelot at $15. So that is it for the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching and best of luck.